What is up, people? It is your boy Mr. Porter, aka Porter the Plug, and in this video we're going to cover formatting, functions, and formulas to really turn you up with Microsoft Excel. If you haven't already watched my other Excel video, it's called Microsoft Excel Fundamentals, and I highly recommend you tap in with that one first before watching this one. So let's jump right into it. In the previous video, we discussed some of the basic formatting, but let's rewind and really break this down. So for starters,
what is formatting?
In simple terms, formatting is how something looks. In Excel, you can format text, you can format numbers, you can even format pictures. But as a wise person once said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So there's plenty of options when it comes to formatting. But first, let's take a look at how you can format text. So we already have some data that we can use from the spreadsheet that we created in the fundamentals video. This is a list of Black-owned businesses located in Memphis, Tennessee. So one of the most common things that people change first is the font. And this is just how the text looks on the screen. So if I wanted to change the font, I could click on one cell and change it for just that cell, or I could highlight a range of cells and change them all at once. And I'm going to go to the Home tab in the font group and then select this drop down, and it gives me a list of different fonts that I can choose from. Now you can see that the font has changed, and also if I click on my header, it will also show me that the font is different for my header and my main data. Now something else that's different for these two is the font size. Now as you saw in the fundamentals video, you can change the font size by clicking on a cell, going to the Home tab, and again in the font group, you have the option to change the font size. Now another way that you can do this is by clicking on one of these icons next to this drop down. You can increase your font size or you can decrease your font size by clicking on these two icons. Now for most Microsoft products, the font group doesn't change much. So you can still bold, italic, underline, and even change the text color the same way you would in any other Microsoft application. But one thing that's a little bit unique is the fill color. So if you select fill color and you change it, what happens is it puts a background for any cell or group of cells that you choose. Now, as we stated in the fundamentals video, it's important to try to stay on the keyboard and off the mouse as much as possible. So I'm going to show you 3 quick shortcut keys to bold, italic, and underline. So let's say I wanted to bold this text that says quintessential sweets. If I press Control and B at the same time, it'll automatically bold. Now for italics, the shortcut is Control I. And for underline, you're pretty smart. Control U, and that underlines the text. Now because we were just using this as an example, we actually don't want the text to look this way. But there has to be some faster way other than clicking undo a million times or going to this and individually unbolding, unitalic, ununderlining, if that's even a word. There has to be a faster way, right? So if you click on A&R Barbecue Restaurant, which is the format that you want for your entire column here, you can go to what's called the Format Painter. And this is going to take this format and basically paint over the rest of these cells with the same format. Now everything is back to normal. This is a great time saver if you want one format on a range of cells or just on one individual cell. Now one of the commands that we didn't cover in the font group is this icon that kind of looks like a window pane, or at least that's what I thought it was when I was a kid. Now this is how you add borders to your spreadsheet. Now let me explain to you why this is important. If you were to print your spreadsheet by going to File and then Print, or pressing Control and P at the same time, look, there's no grid lines, so you can't see the lines that separate your information into columns and rows. Now, let me show you one way to fix this. If you highlight all of the data in your spreadsheet, you can go to the Home tab and in the font group, select All Borders. And now, when you go to Print, you can actually see the lines that are in your spreadsheet. Now, there's other options for borders for you to explore as well. But remember, formatting is just how things look. So you get to decide how you want your spreadsheet to look. Now, similar to Microsoft Word, you have an alignment group. And in the alignment group, you can change the alignment of your text in the cell. So your text can be aligned to the left. Your text can also be aligned in the center of the cell, or your text can also be aligned to the right of the cell. Now something that's a little bit different in Microsoft Excel, because you're using a table format, is these different alignment options. You have top align, you have middle align, and you also have bottom align. Now in the fundamentals video, we talked about changing the row height. So if I change my row height, now my text is displayed at the bottom of the cell. So if I wanted to change this, I could change this to the middle, or I could change this to the top. And again, you can change this for individual cells or a range of cells. Now you can get a little wicked with the text if you want to by changing the text orientation. So if I highlight my column headers and I go to the Home tab and the alignment group, I can rotate my text counterclockwise, clockwise, make it vertical, rotate the text up, or I can rotate the text down. But let's just keep it P and stick with the basics. Now, if you wanted to indent your text, you can do that in the alignment group as well. So just click on a cell and you can either increase your indent or decrease your indent. Now, the last thing we'll cover in the alignment group is how to wrap text, since we discussed how to merge cells in the fundamentals video. Now, one of the ways that we talked about handling text that spills over because a column isn't wide enough is just to make the column bigger. But sometimes you want to fit all of your information inside of your window. So let's say we took the owner's column and we didn't want this column to be this long. So another way we can handle the text that spills over to column E and F is to wrap the text, which basically just means wrap the text to the next line. So if I highlight column D and I go to wrap text, now instead of it spilling over to column E and F, it just goes to the next line. Now, because I like my text to be middle aligned, I'm going to highlight my entire sheet by clicking on this down arrow in the top left hand corner. And then I'm going to middle align everything in the sheet. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you before we move on to formatting numbers, and that's how to hide or unhide a row or column. Now, this works the same for both rows and columns. But let's say I was presenting this data in front of a group of people and I didn't want them to see the owner's names. I could hide this entire column by clicking on the column, right clicking, and then going to hide. Now, you can see it jumps from column C to column E. Now, in order to show this column again, I can highlight the adjacent columns, right click, and then click on unhide, and it brings the information back. Or what I can also do is, if you notice here, there's a double line in between C and E. If you double click on that, it brings back the column as well. Now again, like I said, this works for rows as well. So if I wanted to hide a row, I could do that. And same way to unhide. Voila, magic. So far, we've only talked about what Excel can do with text. But what makes Excel an extremely powerful tool is what it can do with numbers. I'm going to add some new columns to show you some number formatting in Excel. So since we've added some columns to our spreadsheet, we have to fix some formatting. Our header should now span all the way to column I. So we have to merge and center from A1 all the way to I1. Column H is going to need to be a little bit bigger so that we can hold an entire date in that column. And we're going to wrap text for column I and column F. As you can see, the information in column F has been cut off. So we're going to highlight the entire row 2, and then we're going to wrap the text. And we're going to use the format painter to get the format from cells F2 through G13 onto cells H2 through I13. Now I have a saying when it comes to Excel, and that saying is, let Excel do the work for you. One way to see this is through number formatting. Excel can automatically format numbers for you because remember, with Excel and data entry, it's all about speed. So let's take a look at the hours. I know if I'm entering the hours of operations for these businesses, these are going to be formatted as time. But instead of me having to go in and manually type in the time, which would be the hour colon, the minutes, and then AM or PM.
I'm going to let Excel do the work for me.
So if I highlight this entire range of cells and I go to the Home tab and in the Numbers group, I can change this to a time format. But if you notice here, the time format that is the default
Includes minutes and seconds.
So I can go to more number formats, and if I look up time, it gives me some different options for time. So I just want the hour, the minutes, and AM or PM. So that's the one that I'm going to choose. Now, instead of me having to come in and type all of that, all I have to do is type in 6 PM, and it automatically formats with the colon and the minutes. So for the next entry, all I have to do is type 11 AM, tab over, type 8 PM, and it does all of the formatting for me with the colon, the minutes, and AM or PM. Another number format is currency. So for average amount spent per visit, I know that this number is going to be a dollar amount. So I can format these cells as currency. What this does for me is, instead of having to come in and type the dollar sign, the dollar amount, and also the cents, I can format these cells as currency by going to the Home tab, Number group, and format these as currency. And instead of having to type in all of that additional formatting, I can just type the number 15. When I hit enter, it automatically formats this as currency for me. So I'm just going to plug in some numbers here to show you how this works. Now you can also format numbers into a date format. So for date open, I'm going to show you a couple of the different ways that you can format a date in Excel. If I were to type in 5/1/1983, this is going to format as a date. But if I click on this, I can change this date format to a long date format, and Excel will go and look up what day May 1st, 1983 was. So looks like that was a Sunday. But what the heck just happened? There's a bunch of hashtags here. All this is saying is that the current cell that I have isn't big enough to display the data that is inside. So if I come up here to the H column and double click, now it shows the full data. Now you can play around with this and make it look however you like. So if I go back to the number group and I click on more number formats, you can see there's many different ways to format a date in Excel. I'm just going to stick with the month, day, and the year. So the final number format we'll discuss is percentage. And market share is just the percentage of people that are choosing your business over other businesses in the same market. Now, full disclaimer, these numbers are completely made up and only used for example purposes. So we're going to format cells I3 through I13 as a percentage. And instead of having to type the number and the percent sign, all you have to do is come in and type the number, and it automatically formats it as a percentage for you. So these are just some of the basics of how to format numbers in Excel. So now we're going to get into what really makes Excel different: formulas and functions. So I'm going to create a new sheet and name it Formulas and Functions to show you some of the cool things that Excel can do. So let's start with the definition. What is a formula? Based on Microsoft's definition, formulas are equations that can perform calculations, return information, manipulate the contents of other cells, test conditions, and more. So what is a function? Microsoft defines functions as predefined formulas that perform calculations by using specific values called arguments in a particular order or structure. I know. None of that probably made any sense at all. But as I always say, experience is the best teacher. So let's jump right in and use some formulas and functions to show you how they work. Now, Excel is known for being able to perform mathematical calculations. It's like a really big calculator. So let's start with the basics, like adding and subtracting. So the most important thing I'll tell you in this video is all formulas start with an equal sign. I'm going to say that again. All formulas start with an equal sign. So if I wanted to add something, let's just say I wanted to add 21 plus 47. I could start with the equal sign and literally type that exact thing in Excel and it'll calculate it for me. So 21 plus 47, and it returns the actual value. Now, if I click in this cell, it doesn't say 68. It says the formula that is in that cell, which is 21 plus 47. Now you can subtract values as well. So start with an equal sign, 100 minus 56. And that is going to return the value of 44. Again, if I click on the cell, it doesn't just say 44. There's a formula inside of this cell. Now, let's look at multiplication and dividing. So I start with my equal sign, and let's say I wanted to do 5. And instead of doing the X, you're going to put an asterisk here to represent multiplication. 5 times 7. And that gives me 35. Now let's say I wanted to divide, so I'm going to do equal to 100 slash,
which is what you would use to represent division,
5. Now this shows you the basics of Excel formulas, but where Excel really shines is when the formulas include a cell reference. When formulas include a cell reference, they don't just add up a number, they add up whatever value is included in a cell. So let's clear all of this information out of here. And let's say I had 21 and 47 right here. Instead of manually typing in equal to 21 plus 47, I can just type in equal to whatever is in B1 plus whatever is in C1. And that is going to give me the value of 68. Now let's say this changed to 25. This cell is going to automatically update because it's referencing whatever is in cell B1. Now you can do the same thing for subtraction. So let's take 167. So this is going to be equal to B2 minus C2. And again, if this number changes, it automatically updates. So for multiplication, same thing. So let's do 5 and 36. This is going to be equal to B3 asterisk, which is the symbol for multiplication, C3. Same for divide, 60 and 3. So we're going to do equal to B4 slash C4. So these are examples of basic mathematical calculations using cell references. So now let's talk about functions. So again, functions are predefined formulas. So if you click on, let's say D5, if I wanted to add all of these values up, I could do it the way that I just showed you by going to equal sign, D1 plus D2 plus D3 plus D4. But as you've hopefully learned throughout this tutorial, Excel is all about being fast. So a quicker way to do this is to just click on equal sign, and then I'm going to enter the function of sum. Now sum is going to add all of the numbers in a range of cells. So I'm going to double click on sum, and then it starts to predict, hey, what do you want to add up? What I want to add up is the values in cells D1 through D4. So if I click on D1 and drag my mouse down to D4, close the parentheses, it adds all of those numbers up. Now again, these are all cell references. So let's just say I changed 100 to 110. Not only is this value going to update, but this value is as well. So when I hit enter, it changes to 32, and then that changes to 304. Because this formula is referencing this cell and this cell. Another function that you can use is average. So let's just use what is in column C to show off that function. So if you type the equal sign and you type average, the average function is going to return the average of a range of cells. So let's double click on average and let's choose C1 through C4. Close the parentheses, and that gives us the average number of the numbers in this particular range of cells. Now, sum and average are only a couple of the functions that you can use in Excel. If you look right underneath the ribbon, you'll see this icon that says Insert Function. And when you click on this, you can search for a function or you can select a category. Now, Excel has your most recently used functions, or it breaks it down into financials, date and time, math and trigonometry, statistical, or you can just look at all of the different functions that are available for you in Microsoft Excel. And this is a pretty extensive list. So as you can see, there's a lot of different functions that you can use. Now, back in the day, we used to have these things called multiplication tables. So I'll use a multiplication table to show you two things: how to autofill and also how to copy formulas. I'm sure you all remember in elementary school, the multiplication table looked something like this. So with the multiplication table, I know that I'm going to have a repeated value multiplied by a list of numbers. So 9 times 1, 9 times 2, 9 times 3, on and on and on. But not only can you enter this data faster in Excel, you can also perform the mathematical calculations quicker. So let's take a look at how this is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the cell F6 and I'm going to type the number 9. So now, since 9 is going to be the repeated value, I just want to copy this number down. So the way to do that is to click on cell F6, and I want to copy whatever is in this cell all the way down. So if you look, you'll see a green box that is in the lower right hand corner. If you hover over this, your cursor will change to a black crossbar. If you click and drag this all the way down, then it'll copy whatever is in that cell
Down to as far as you drag your cursor.
Now, since we're doing 10, I copied it down to F15. Now, the other side to this is the list of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, instead of copying, you can do what's called an autofill. So if I type 1 and then I type 2, Excel is pretty smart. Excel is then going to say, hey, it looks like this person is creating a list. So if I highlight both 1 and 2, which is in cell G6 and G7, if I come back down and that cursor turns into a crossbar, this is going to autofill the rest of the numbers. So voila. Now this not only works for numbers, this can also work for text as well. So if I said Monday, Tuesday, and then I highlighted both of these and drug this down, this is going to say, hey, it looks like you're typing the days of the week. And now it does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This also works for months as well. So if you type January, February, and you highlight and drag down, it is going to put in the months because Excel is smart. And remember, like I said, let Excel do the work for you. So I'm just going to clear contents here because we actually don't need this information. So now we have to multiply the two values. We have to multiply what is in F6 times what is in G6. So remember, all formulas start with an equal sign. So we can just click on the equal, well, we can type the equal sign, and then we're going to click on F6 and then our asterisk, which is for multiplication, and then we're going to click on G6. So that gives us 9. Now, the same way that you can copy a value down, you can also copy a formula down. So if I click in H6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy what is in H6 down to H7. And it's going to perform the same mathematical function just for the next set of cells. So now it's going to multiply F7 times G7. And I can do this all the way down. And now I have my multiplication table. And if I click in these cells, you can see F7, G7, F8, G8, F9, G9, and it continues to go down. So this is how you copy values down. You can also copy formulas down. And then if you give Excel a couple of leads, it will autofill information for you. Now this is enough to get you started with formulas and functions, but I'm going to give you one additional bonus tip on how to format text, which is inserting a hyperlink. So in professional documents, a lot of times you have a hyperlink, which links you to a website, another point in the document. It could link you to another document, but let's just say I want an A&R barbecue restaurant to be a link to their website. So one way that you can do this is go to the Insert tab, and in the links group, you're going to click on Hyperlink. Another way that you can do this is by clicking on the link, clicking on the cell, and then pressing Control and K at the same time. Now what this is going to ask you is, what link or what address do you want to go to? So the text that's going to display is still going to be A&R Barbecue Restaurant, but the address is going to send you to their website. So what you'll do is go to the internet and copy this link. You'll paste it where it says address and then click OK. And now this is a link to their website. So in this video, we talked about formatting, formulas, and functions. In a future video, we'll talk about how to display data in the form of graphs and charts. We'll cover some advanced formatting tips and tricks, and also some formulas and functions that'll take your business documents to the next level. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, it's your boy, Porter the Plug. I'll catch you in the next one.